Welcome to EpiSTEM podcast. This EpiSTEM podcast is brought to you from the National Centre of STEM Education at the School of Education in the University of Limerick. I'm your host, Geraldine Simmie, and I'm the Professor of STEM Education here at the Centre and the Director of EpiSTEM. And my co-host,
Michelle Starr, and I am the Research Liaison Officer in EpiSTEM.
Welcome to the EpiSTEM podcast today, and again we're continuing on with our Design a Sustainable Village in Ireland for 2050, and I'll introduce myself again, even though I've done so a few seconds ago. Geraldine Simmie, Professor of STEM Education. Your co-host is here,
Michelle Starr, who's Research Liaison Officer in EpiSTEM.
And our guest today,
Lauren O'Gorman. I'm a secondary school teacher and I worked with EpiSTEM over the summer, and I'm continuing to do so as a research assistant.
Yeah, and you're our guest today as a research assistant in EpiSTEM, as well as a secondary school teacher here in Limerick, and one of our schools as well that's joining us on the Design a Sustainable Village project. So I think we're working our way through this. We've had a very, very good start. We've got a number of schools registered, and we talked about them last week. And I suppose the development now is we've met the teachers and we've done a first CPD seminar with them, and we've had some nice ideas from them. So we're beginning to pull it together now and getting it up and started. So maybe, Lauren, what I suppose, I think it's very enjoyable to be a research assistant. You seem to have enjoyed it this summer. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? And, you only finished your degree last year. I know you're from, is it Ballybrown in Limerick, and you went to Pallaskenry Secondary School. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you did the degree in?
Yes, so I always wanted to be a teacher since I was young. I just loved when people had that aha moment. Yeah. And then as well, when I was in secondary school, my physics teacher, Annie O'Callaghan, she was a big role model and I wanted to be like her. So that was a big inspiration for me becoming a teacher. Luckily, I got a job in Limerick, so I haven't had to move away just yet. I feel like a real, adult job is like one big step. So one thing at a time.
Yeah, so you got the degree last year, and you're now working as a teacher, a science teacher in
Crescent College Comprehensive in Limerick.
In
S.J.
Limerick, yeah, the Jesuit order. I mean, I worked for years in Galway with the Jesuit school, Coláiste Ignoid. Had a great learning experience. They were very good on holistic development, and they were very, very good on social outreach and social justice.
It plays a big part of the school, 100%.
Yeah, great thinkers altogether. Yeah, very interesting. So that's very interesting. Michelle, what are your thoughts so far?
Well, I'm going to ask you about how did you end up in science teacher? Was that from that teacher? Was she a science teacher?
She taught me. Oh my goodness, she taught me physics.
Wow.
And so now I teach physics and biology.
And that's what you went into, is physics. It's amazing, isn't it?
That the influence they can have.
The influence of one teacher. And
exactly.
And
the fact she supported.
And what is it, do you think it is? What is it that just clicks?
I think she just really cared, and she just promoted the subject well, and she believed that we could do it. And I feel like physics especially gets a lot of hate as a subject. Yeah. People either think they get it or they don't, because there's a lot of maths in it, but no, she encouraged everyone and would give everyone the time of day to go through things if they were struggling.
It's really funny you say that. I mean, even the word care and relationship, we're very much believing that education's based on that inspirational piece of relationship. And so our first years, we have 400 of them at the moment doing philosophy of education, and they're telling us all the time as we're speaking, they're talking about the inspiration they got from teachers. And I did as well from Sister Rosari, who was a science and maths teacher in the school. It was the lovely way she explained it, and the care piece, educare being to care, and relational piece. And as you say, physics can be taught without that kind of, if you like, that connection to the student. When you feel affirmed and you're listening to the examples, it can inspire, put a passion into it. I don't know, have you had that experience, Michelle?
Yeah. I was just trying to think when I don't think so. I remember one teacher in primary school, but he was lovely. He was a fill-in for some time. He was a retired teacher and very nice. But I do think that it's important, that pinpoint, that it's the relationship, it's the caring. That's what that's where, you know, the learning and the inspiration comes from, which is very, very important. And I think we forget that in all these like research and surveys and numbers that come out.
Yeah, in research in Ireland, Professor Kathleen Lynch has a long history here as a sociologist in Ireland doing affectivity, it's called, all that kind of work on an ethic of care. But I suppose what she's noticed is that it's never mentioned in policy documents that much. It might just be skimmed over as a professional duty of care, but that real relational of learning piece isn't in there, and that effective work is either brought out to be measured or isn't understood. Do you know, it's very interesting, very interesting. So when you were researching for us in the summer then, what took your eye in terms of this Design a Sustainable Village project?
Yeah, so the project, very, very interesting, first of all, and I think it's a great opportunity for the students to actually feel like they can make a difference, because they're going to get to speak to like important people from Limerick, like the mayor and so on. But yeah, things I looked into was the vertical buildings, the vertical forest in Milan in Italy. Basically just 2 high-rise buildings, but people live in them and they're covered in shrubbery and greenery. And they're really beautiful, and they're also like they help cool down the building, because high rises tend to get quite hot. And then once a year they have these flying gardeners who'll come down and prune, which is quite cool.
Yeah, very interesting. And in this kind of garden, are they privately owned, or are they the corporation own them, or
no,
do you know anything about that?
I'm pretty sure people live in them.
Yeah. But
year round.
Yeah, people live in them year round. But I'm saying, are they privately owned, or are they owned by the corporation, or are they social housing? Would you think?
I don't think they're social housing.
You don't think so? But they've all the greenery, so they're not concrete jungles. I suppose that's the main thing.
And it's a good use of space. If you can't go outward, you can go up.
You can go up, and then you can actually have a balcony garden. That kind of idea. I loved that. I saw that when I was looking at it.
And what I would see from it as well, because you were saying about it keeps the buildings cool, and then equally, I'm sure in the winter it would insulate them, because you've all these plants and they would insulate it. But it's lovely, that whole idea of the vertical and the garden, you know, with all the plants growing up along the side. Because I was looking at, when I was reading about that section that you had researched, and something like the forest and the trees absorb about 40% of the fossil emissions that come from the city, transports and other emissions that are, you know, where energy is used. And also we have the other connection then is the leaves will absorb the CO2. And I think, and then it's through our photosynthesis and producing oxygen. So all of these benefits.
Yes.
And it's, you know, we can see it. It's so important.
And it's nearly a piece of art too, which is important.
Yeah, that's very interesting that it is a piece of art as well, which has kind of got that aesthetic piece to it. And what were you saying then about the flying what? What were the flying?
The flying gardeners. So they abseil down the building. And so they start at the top and they're just pruning and minding it, and then they go down to the bottom.
That's gas, isn't it? Instead of your window cleaner, you get your flying gardener. I love it.
And of course, you're into climbing.
Yes, I dabble. I do enjoy it.
You enjoy climbing.
Started here in UL.
Did you?
Yeah.
You joined the climb. And what's the climbing club in UL? Tell us. We'll digress a bit. Tell us about it.
Outdoor Pursuits Club. They also do hiking, caving, and orienteering.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
What caves have you been in?
Oh, I'm too scared to go caving. Tight spaces,
up,
no thank
down.
you. Yeah, exactly. They went to, I'm actually not sure, it was somewhere in the Burn.
Yeah, lovely, of course. Back in my own neck of the woods.
Yeah.
The Burn.
But you can definitely check out the Instagram for more information.
You can. Good, lovely. And tell us then about any other piece of research that you did here for the project. Was there any other thing that caught your eye?
When I was researching, I kind of looked at things in Limerick that were nearly missing. So social spaces are very important. And in other countries, like in Canada, there's loads of social spaces. People are always outdoors and they have courts for basketball, you know, handball, things like that. But here in Limerick, that's not really a thing. There's a few parks, but there's not even like really outdoor gyms or anything. So I did some research into that, and at the moment, I don't know, do you know the new school in Mungret?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they have obviously freshly built like basketball courts, and they're looking into making those available to the public, which would be great. So they're like, the politicians are like lobbying for that to be made available, which would be such a great addition to the community.
Yeah.
If students could, you know, go home and then go out and play instead of saying, oh, well, there's nothing to do, I'll just go on my phone.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. And public space is, I mean, it's one thing that, you know, in this project that we design a village for 2050, and it should be a concept for everyone, for civic engagement, for, you know, open for everyone to go into a good public space. And also what it engenders with everyone is a sense of belonging who live there, and everyone should have equal access. And you can imagine as well the cultural, you know, events that you can run, and you can even talk about political participation or political, you know, you could have, it's like a, what is it called, a citizen assembly area. But so there's so many uses, and of course play for children and young people, which is very important, and safety is very important.
And even adults as well.
I agree.
For
Adults,
everyone.
For everyone.
Yeah.
They have the big emphasis nowadays with the green and digital transition, all about green spaces, blue spaces with swimming and wild swimming and all this kind of well-being as well. Not only civic, better society and better democracies, but also, I suppose, that well-being piece as well. So I suppose if we have the young people and the students dreaming on for an eco-village in 2050, it would be a good idea for them to think of that.
Yeah.
The plaza piece. Was it you had the piece on the plaza in Madrid or any of that? Now, did you have anything on that, or is there any public space around the world that you can think of? There isn't any, because we have one in the book on I think in Madrid. I think there's a big plaza space, and it's very much used as social cohesion and bringing people together, and that idea that you've talked about.
Yeah, and it is so important. I was just saying that something I came across earlier on today when I was reading on social spaces, that in Ireland in the year 2000, there were 5 times more golf courses than children's play areas, public areas. And I was just blown over with that.
That's shocking, yeah.
It is absolutely shocking. And there's been other great studies as well. Geraldine, you were talking about earlier, it's O'Keefe and O'Byrne, and it was done, and they did a study on children's mobility in Ireland. And that same thing again about social space. 90% of children play in their own back gardens compared to, you know, out in public space. It's something that we really need to really put into.
Especially when we're talking about well-being. Like it has to be, like you have to have those things in place for people to actually be able to enjoy them. Yeah.
You do. And I suppose the last decade has become very risk averse.
Yes.
And has become very focused on litigation and whether a child would fall off a swing or whatever. Be gone with the days when I ran with my 5 brothers up hills, down dales and into rivers and everything, and no one at home knew where we were.
Yeah.
You know, that day is gone. It's not, people aren't running, the kids aren't running wild anymore, but they're probably on their computers and on their dashboards and the rest of it. So that play, I mean, is it Haidt, or Jonathan Haidt has written a book on the anxious generation, that idea of everything is risk averse, and there's almost so much risk averse stuff going on that almost people are nearly afraid to let their children out to play. So there's a sense of we better kind of grab at that a bit, I think, maybe into the future.
Yeah, and safety, I suppose. And you can understand traffic. There's so much traffic because we're not very good on that whole infrastructure in Ireland, as in public transportation, that the roads are busy, and I suppose that is a big factor with safety, you know.
Yeah, it's a balance.
Yeah, so we need that, but, you know, designing to think of all of these things. It's as you're saying, if we're going up and we have big populations and going up, think of the greenery, and it's a very clever way, the way that greenery is done and the way it can work within an area, a big densely populated area or not. But if it's densely populated and it's helping keep the air clean, because this is what we're all about. It's all of these little ways of working. How did they do the watering of the plants, of
Oh,
the trees?
watering.
So it's probably they had an irrigation system in, a
Yes,
good irrigation
exactly.
system in. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're looking really, I suppose, at all of this. You're looking at, we're getting a lot of support now with the new specifications in the national curriculum across the STEM subjects, across science and everything. And that idea of connecting into the greater well-being and civic society has been spelt out now, which is lovely to see in the new specifications and in the new subject coming and everything. It's great to see that being spelt out, because it's kind of, I suppose the world has turned everything towards a private good. And so it's like that we're talking about public spaces for everyone and for building that peaceful democracy and that type of thing. Tell me, have you, and did you have something on food labels that were you talking to us about food labels, or were you going to mention something about, was it Sophie Morris or somebody there?
Sophie Morris, very popular on Instagram at the moment. She's taking Ireland by storm, I think, over 20,000 followers. But yeah, recently I noticed her stuff, and she looks at food labels a lot, and she just like comments on the fact that there's things on the shelves which have additive ingredients or things like sugar added when there's really no need for it. Like even there's some certain brands of tinned tomatoes and they'll have added sugar, and then you'll pick up another tin and there's no sugar in it, and it's like, well, I'll just go for the tin with no sugar. So it's just as well just for people to, you know, make aware choices.
Wonderful.
Yeah, because
Wonderful.
It is just a fact of like these companies, they aren't fully looking out for your best interests. They're just looking to make a profit. So if they can make their product tasty, or if they can just, sometimes products actually, the ones that have the best packaging are nearly the worst for you, because they're just throwing you off with. Yeah, so
I mean, the marketing piece can pull you in, and you want the students to have the critical literacy to be able to, you know, look at the labels. I'm at a stage now with my eyesight where I nearly need to bring a magnifying glass with me to read these labels. But I love the idea. So Sophie is going to be our answer to Jamie Oliver, is she?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jamie Oliver has done a lot of great work in the UK, going round, you know, teaching young people, particularly from impoverished backgrounds and all that, how to eat well and, you know, cut back on the sugar and, you know, mind the carbs and, you know, keep learning how to do it better. But it isn't easy for people. It's probably more of a middle class thing to be following these labels in a way, because people from poor backgrounds probably haven't got an awful lot of income around that. So it's a real poverty issue as well, that food and feeding and having needs met.
And that could be, you know, when you think of it, and, you know, that equality of food equality and poverty in this whole design. And you're talking about spaces and designing spaces and the importance of them. What are those gardens that people share? They have in a community. They're called communal vegetable gardens. They're big in cities. I know they're big in Switzerland.
Oh yeah, that kind of plush, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, because that is a great idea, because it brings in the food and let everyone be able to have their little plot to grow. Or even if they decided, you know, the kids could be picking up different ideas. But if you had someone who's good at growing potatoes and another person, or you could grow carrots, and it could be a bit of a bartering.
Yeah,
I know it sounds
no, it's
good, but it's such a and it's
very important. It's very much reuse, recycle. It's very much, I suppose, we've become a throwaway, disposable society, and we're climate action that we're going to come on to in a minute. That new subject is actually asking us to rethink everything, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. And it's a great way of everyone being able to be involved, engaging, and even intergenerations, all these, you know, the different generations. I think it would, it's great. Nature is, and it's healthy. Then you don't have to worry about how much sugar is in there, how much salt is in there, because we know if you're making your food yourself.
Yeah, Lauren, tell us about that new subject, climate action and sustainability. I see, like here in the UN Sustainable Goals number 13, climate action. So we're all having to become aware of that need. What for you is there in terms of what's the science of it as well as the civic responsibility of it? What do you think sustainability is about?
Sustainability, I think it's about, again, every person being aware that yes, they can make a difference, and also putting pressure on, like, our businesses to do better for us. Like plastic, when it was first invented, there was huge outrage and people were protesting. And then they brought up, they invented recycling and they said, well, now it's on you. And so now people get mad when people don't recycle, but recycling was only invented by the people who invented plastic.
Yeah.
So I think there's just, I think at the moment there is a big push of people using their voice and saying, no, we have to stop this.
Yeah. Just to try and re-educate ourselves to have another way of looking at it. And we started in the podcast here using this lovely word about encouraging the politicians to put, to make the right decisions. And that word, Mary Robinson, I think used it in the summertime, and I've latched onto it. I think it's a great word to say we need to encourage ourselves, our own responsibilities, and work with others, and do it in our science class as well as in our religion classes, in our geography class, and to kind of keep working with the young people in college and ourselves to just re-educate ourselves, I suppose, about that life, how we can make the STEAM education then work for us for that, I suppose, better literacies and all that across the curriculum. What's your thoughts on that, Michelle?
Exactly. And what I was going to ask Lauren about how does she find, the students, are they're probably very interested, or are they in this whole climate action, or do they talk about it? And especially if if you start introducing the project.
Yeah, no, they're very excited about the project, especially in terms of inclusivity. And I think they're interested in sort of discussing fast fashion because, everyone gets excited about their Shein haul, but I think everyone is aware that we shouldn't be ordering these things from China, in bulk. But no, they're very aware of the problems that exist, and they were very good at identifying different issues. They knew that there were trains where, you still have to book 24 hours in advance if you need wheelchair access. In Ireland, I mean, that's scandalous. You can't just rock up and get on the train. You should be able to do that. So Ireland is super behind in these sort of things. They're also mentioning how, on bin day, all the bins are on the pavement. But sure, if you're in a wheelchair now, that's just a huge obstacle in your way.
Yeah.
And it's small things like this, just that they're aware of and they've noticed, which is cool.
Yeah, that's a kind of a new way of educating ourselves around everything. Which is really important. I think that's a huge one. I mean, UNESCO, with the new UNESCO since 2021 and after COVID has brought out that idea of us needing a whole new social contract. And of course, they're asking for education to bring it into play or for education, I suppose, to play its part. I mean, education on its own can't do it on its own, but we can certainly do some good part of it.
Yeah. I think so. And even having the conversation and hearing the students talk and they're becoming aware of it is a part. Then we can delve deeper into the whys. How did we get here? And
then
I think that
solutions,
and then come to the solutions. But having to know the history of the why we got here, you need for the solutions, and I think that whole area of infrastructure that you just touched. We really could put a podcast on that.
We could.
I think that would be a great one, and we could come in from a historical and see how Ireland compares to other countries, and see what's going on in the.
We could indeed,
just have
absolutely.
a little glimpse around what's going on.
Yeah, I think that would be a lovely way to finish up today. Tell me about. Just to mention your students, what students or what class are you working with on the project?
So I'm working with a group of transition years who are doing science, but I've encouraged them. There's the artefact element of the project, so I told them that they can, in other subjects, mention it to their teacher, and do it in art or in metalwork or anything like that.
That's lovely. That's great. So we'll see how that develops.
Yeah.
So I'll just finish up the podcast. I suppose I'll give an advert for the fact that our professional diploma in mathematics for teaching is open now for a new cohort in January. So if any teachers there are interested in upskilling in mathematics, please see our advert and come onto the University of Limerick website and definitely enrol in the next few weeks because that advert will be closing. Anything else needed to say there? You're okay? So we're going to play out today. So with a lovely piece of music, we have Eilidh Pope is going to play for us. Eilidh Pope. She's a fourth year, final year student in the BA in World Music, and she's an instrumentalist and a composer, and she's in the Irish World Academy of Music and Dance here at the University of Limerick. Now, Eilidh's from Nina in Tipperary, and as I said, she's even a composer herself. But today for the tune, she has decided to pick on the Boyne Water, and it's an arrangement played by Martin Hayes with his group called the Common Ground Ensemble. But today, let's hear Eilidh play it. So, Eilidh Pope, over to you, and thank you very much.